Just one other question there. Just coming back to the workforce, what's our current percentage of agency staff at the moment, and how's that trending? Yeah, are we still heading in the right direction on that one?
It's currently 24.6%. We've been around 25% for about 6 or 7 months now. So we are in, as Teresa described earlier, in a position of transition. So there is an increase and there's some flux in our system, because we're moving into families first, or we've moved into families first, but we expect it to settle down. We have got ambitious targets. Our permanence rate, so losing permanent staff, hasn't changed. It's 2%, so per month, which is really quite low and is good. So we are working on it, but yes, it's kind of static at the moment, as that's what the data shows.
Thank you. I don't see any other hands up for questions. So yeah, thank you for the report, and we look forward to the next one. Good progress so far. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Let me just get back to the agenda page so I can tell you the next item. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is the School Ofsted update on Luton schools, including independent schools. That's on pages 25 to 28 of your agenda pack. And that's with Caroline Dawes. Thank you.
If I just introduce the report first of all, I'd just like to introduce Caroline Dawes, who's going to give the overview of our Ofsted inspections over this last year, so that you get a flavour about how the Ofsted have been reviewing our schools. It's important to note that Ofsted's changing its inspection framework. I'm sure many people have picked that out, which will require us as an organisation think how we report on this in the future, because there'll no longer be the one-word judgments of outstanding, good, requiring improvement, or inadequate, which is currently part of our corporate performance indicators. It's important to note before Caroline steps in about how much pride we ought to take in our schools, actually, because the outcomes in terms of their Ofsted outcomes, not just about the Ofsted outcomes, but also their improving standards, is something that as a council we ought to be truly proud of when we see what's happening nationally. But I will pass over to Caroline, who's going to give you the overview, and I'm sure that we'll be able to answer any questions you may have after the presentation. Thank you.
Right, thanks very much, Paul, and thanks very much, colleagues. This is a historic occasion then, because this is going to be the last time that you get this annual report from me in this format. So since we reported last year, Ofsted have inspected 24 Luton schools. There's a table describing the outcomes of those inspections, very, very positive. So 5 were outstanding, 4 would have been outstanding if it had been a graded inspection, 14 were good, and 1 requires improvement. So that meant that overall, by the end of the year, 94.3% of Luton schools were the equivalent of good or better, which is pretty good, compared to a benchmark nationally of around 90%. And I think it's reiterating what Paul said about the sort of the top end, and nearly a quarter of our schools in Luton are outstanding, which is a great place for our children to be going. In terms of independent schools who are outside of our remit in terms of accountability, but they're within the Luton boundary, and so they teach Luton children, sorry. So all of our independent schools are now at least good. And there's a table there showing that they're now all meeting the independent school standards. None of them are inadequate, so it's a much more secure position to be in. And this group asks me to report on unregistered schools annually. We have no unregistered schools. We had 2 settings referred to us through our unregistered schools policy, but there were no settings which met the criteria for unregistered schools. So I can provide assurance in that regard to this group. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So yeah, moving on to Councillor Latif.
Thank you for the report. So 94.3% is very good rating. So well done for that. But 3 schools remain inadequate. What are action plans to make them come out of inadequate?
There are 3 schools which we consider still to be inadequate. They may say something different, and from the data point of view, nationally, they start from scratch because they're now academies. So they're basically sitting on a judgment which says they're not yet been inspected as an academy, but we don't think that's quite fair. So the actions in terms of those 3 schools, so they're all academies with multi-academy trusts, and we meet with the multi-academy trusts on a termly basis about school improvement. Are there any barriers to their improvement? How's it going? Is there anything that we can support with? And so there's that action in terms of the local authority working in partnership with the multi-academy trusts on that. So what we're really hoping for is that they'll be inspected soon. It'll be under the new framework, but we'll get out of that, hopefully, those sort of areas of concern, that inadequate judgment.
Ashish Kadia.
Thank you. Mine's purely a comment, which is thanks to you and the team for the excellent support that you provide to our schools as they go through these inspections. My school was one of them last year, and absolutely it was challenging, especially after the headlines of the challenges that have been through Ofsted. But the support that you've provided to the head, the leadership team, the governing body, and other schools that I've spoken to reflect that. So I just want to pass that on as a massive thank you. So it shouldn't go unnoticed in this group.
Thank you very much, and it's really on behalf of head teachers. It's head teachers who deserve all the credit for this.
Councillor Khan.
Thank you, Chair. My question is, it's great to see that all the schools are sort of on the trajectory to do good or, even excellent. How does that compare to last year's data? I'm just trying to, or, the last time that we collected this data, I just want to get a rough idea of how far we've come.
Yeah, so it's improved since last time in that schools that were perhaps on RI have become good. In particular, there were 2 schools that were causing us concern, Stockwood Park and Linden Academy, who were both stuck at RI. They've both improved and are now sitting at good. So those are examples of that. Sitting at that judgment takes a while. You're not inspected for another couple of years, but they're now out of that area of concern and are now good.
Tasleem Aslam.
Phenomenal work has gone on here, and this data is really good. And having gone through many Ofsted inspections, it takes a lot to get a good or an outstanding. So well done. I just wanted to ask, and also with regards to the 3 schools, I know personally that Lee Manor is on a really, really positive trajectory, and it has not had an inspection since is it 2021. So that's already, I know from experience and inside information, that's probably a good, at least. Where you are, I mean, the one school that requires improvement, you say it's joint pioneering learning trust, but is there still authority intervention happening?
Yes, so not so much intervention, but scrutiny and challenge. So the responsibility for school improvement now sits with Pioneer, with the Multi-Academy Trust Pioneer. And so we have meetings with Pioneer about what they're doing with that school. So we're holding the chief executive to account around the school improvement strategy for that school. So we won't be meeting with the head, we meet with the CEO. And that's a well-established system now.
Councillor Fry.
Thank you, Chair. I've got a comment and a question. First of all, my comment is fantastic that we've got 94+% on good or outstanding. I don't think anybody who doesn't work in a school environment realises the amount of hard work it actually takes just to get good. And the sort of results that we got this summer from our Luton schools was absolutely phenomenal, bearing in mind the demographics. My question is the requires improvement school, Warden Hill. It said it went to requires improvement June 24 and into the academy June 25. Can you just tell me why it took them a year to get to that stage to help them?
Why these things take so long, and it takes as long as it takes. However, we don't stop. So when the judgment came through on requires improvement, it was still a local authority school. So we were working with the school, we had a school improvement group, we had intensive support. So again, it shouldn't be in the position that it was at that time. So we don't wait for these things to happen. We were in the school working with them, and their outcomes are really strong, this year. And again, we'd hope that they'll be part of the new process in terms of having regular and frequent monitoring inspections under the new toolkit that's come through.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments from this floor? Just one other question for me then. So in relation to unregistered schools, obviously there's mentioned that there were 2 cases referred and both were found to have been sort of not meeting the criteria. How are we proactively monitoring these tuition centres and tuition providers on an ongoing basis? How's that done?
So, schools bill to understand more about the refreshed responsibilities for local authorities in relation to settings which are outside of regulation, which covers all of the out of school activities pretty much. So tuition centres, madrasas, anything that's operating outside of school hours are currently unregulated and are the responsibility of parents to check and make sure they're okay. In terms of our duties from a safeguarding perspective, we invite schools who are or settings which are outside of the school system, so our supplementary schools, for example, into our safeguarding training. And we have oversight in relation to alternative providers who aren't schools. We have a robust procurement process, particularly around safeguarding expectations. And again, we monitor the alternative providers on a regular and frequent and pretty robust basis.
Thank you. I think, Paul, do you want to go?
And just to finish, I suppose, we talked about the outcomes in terms of the Ofsted outcomes, and it's important to note, yes, 94.3% of our schools are good or outstanding. That compares with a national of 90%, but we've got 23% of our schools that are outstanding compared with a national of only 17%. The other issue which is important, that when we talk of Ofsted inspections, we assume it's about curriculum, it's about teaching, it's about standards, but actually our schools do a much bigger job than that. And it's interesting, in the summer we had 3 different schools inspected. All of them came out really well. One was an Islamic school, independent school. One was a pupil referral unit and alternative provision. One was our own maintained schools. And I think it's quite important that we recognise the other side of the work that they do, which really help bring community cohesion within our town. From the Islamic school, pupils demonstrate tolerance and mutual respect. They're respectful of the differences between people, such as those relating to gender, religion or race. From our alternative provision, pupils are very well prepared for life in modern Britain. And from our junior school, pupils are taught to respect different religions and cultures, both in their community and beyond. And at a time like this, that we're seeing nationally, that kind of work that is embedded within our schools, that actually is demonstrating the very high quality of what they're doing to help change children's lives and help them be strong and actually work together, is quite important. That comes through the Ofsted reports, but it's often something that isn't recognised when we think of Ofsted reports. We always think about outcomes, curriculum, teaching, but that's quite crucial, the whole values that our schools are trying to create. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. And thanks all. Yeah, so no, I think the recommendation was just to note the report and to consider the measures. So yeah, thank you again for that report, and we'll move on to the next item. Thank you. Back to So the next item on the agenda is item 9, which is the Ofsted Preparation and Self-Evaluation Framework. That's on pages 29 to 106 of your agenda packs. Wait while I navigate there myself. Right. And that's with Teresa Hills.
Yes, that's right. Councillor Ligo.
Yeah. Thank you. Teresa's going to share the slides, but I'll just start with a bit of background. So in preparation for the forthcoming Ofsted ILACS inspection, it is important that we come together as a leadership group to reflect on the work we've undertaken, the progress we have made, and the areas where we continue to grow. This report is shared with members not only to provide assurance around the department's readiness, but to invite your insights and reflections as trusted partners in our improvement journey. The self-evaluation framework, which is a very, very big document with loads of text, has been carefully developed through engagement of teams and data. It offers a transparent view of our current position. It highlights our strengths and the areas that we are actively working to improve outcomes for children and families. So together we have a shared responsibility to ensure that our services are not only inspection ready, but also continuously evolving to meet the needs and children and young people we serve. So I welcome your feedback on the framework, the wider preparations for inspection. And Teresa and I are going to do a very quick PowerPoint, which summarises all of the millions of pages that you've got. And we trust that you've read all of the papers, because everything won't be in the PowerPoint, if that makes sense, once we can get it to share and get it on the screen. Okay, so we are going to talk about Luton's improvement journey, and I'll hand over to Teresa to do the next slide.
So in terms of the Luton context, just so you know, colleagues, we are currently graded requires improvement. This is not a surprise to anyone. And also to give some context, the Ofsted ILACS framework that is in operation now was designed around 2015. From that time till now, Luton has had several inspections within that framework, and in all of that, we have either been requires improvement or inadequate as recent as 2020, and from then 2022 we got requires improvement. So it is a very thorough and a very well established framework. However, for us in Luton, it has been a challenge for at least a decade in terms of sitting within that requires improvement framework. But we are ambitious. We know that that's not good enough for us, and we are bold and ambitious in terms of breaking through that and what that means and what that requires for us. We have a lot of opportunities and risks as a Pathfinder. As you heard earlier from Paul Jogi, we are one of 10 authorities in the whole of England testing and trialling a different way of delivering social work and relational work with our children and families, and working differently in terms of alternatively qualified, working with our community leaders, etc., to make change happen, and using different ways of working like family network meetings, etc. We have had focused visits in the last couple of years. So since 2022 to now, we had a focused visit of our front door in 2023. We also had a focused visit in 2024 in terms of our care leavers. And all of that has given us some good information that we know gets given us some good intel in terms of what we need to do to get to our next level. And we are currently in the next window of our ILACS inspection, and our focus has been to develop a consistently good way of working with children and families and evidencing impact and outcomes for our children and families.
So I'm going to talk about the leadership journey. It's quite small up there, but hopefully on your papers you've got them. So in 2022 we had the ILACS inspection where we moved from inadequate to requires improvement. And the years prior to that, I think we've been in requires improvement for about 15 years or so. Improvement plan refresh happened after that inspection. We had a refresh of visions and priorities, and it was recognised that a new senior leadership team was required to reflect the relationship-based practice and values of Luton, and having a team that's reflective of our population. So Dheeraj was appointed permanent corporate director in May 2023, and then straight after that, we had a focus visit. So we have the full ILACS inspections, and then we have the focus visits that work on the different areas, and that took place in June 2023, which was a focus on the MASH and our assessment. We then had Paul becoming the permanent director of education. Teresa joined as the permanent director of operations, and then in full council we passed a motion for care leavers to become protected characteristic. We then appointed Janice as a permanent director of quality and improvement. The reason we keep saying permanent is that we getting some stability there with a team that's experienced. And then in 2020, there should be a little thing in the middle here is when I became the portfolio holder. And then Luton successfully became Pathfinder for Families First for Children. So that's one of 10, a really, really good opportunity for us. So that was, last summer. And then again, immediately after, we had a focus visit, which took place in 2023, 2024, taking a focus on care leavers. And as we'll explain as the slides go on, care leavers is a new addition to the judgment for Ofsted, and it's a limiting judgment that has really caught out lots of local authorities. So having that focus visit was really good because they gave us some really harrowing feedback and areas to work on. So then we revised the improvement plan, capturing those recommendations from the focus visits, and assurances were provided to Ofsted that we're going to make some progress. We reviewed and refreshed the Care Leavers Ambition Plan, with our care leavers getting involved every step of the way, and I took over as a sponsor for the Care Leavers Ambition Plan. We then started service improvement reviews in preparation for Ofsted in all the different areas. We updated our quality assurance framework. We introduced practice observations and peer audits, updated our effective support document. We then launched our practice framework. So I don't know if it's in these slides anywhere, but it's the rainbow with the different layers in them. And then we revised our Children's Continuous Improvement Board, which is now chaired by the Chief Executive. And a really, really big focus of mine and everyone's really has been the refocus of the Corporate Parenting Board, which we'll probably get into a little bit more later on when we go through the 4 areas. We then celebrated 1 year of Family Help. We then had Mark Riddell visit in July. So he's a DOV advisor on care leavers who welcomed all of the progress that we've made since 2024 when we had the focus visit from Ofsted to now for our offer for care leavers, but also identified lots more that we need to do, which again, hopefully we can come on to a little bit later on. And then we had the Director General for Families who visited Luton. And that's our sort of leadership journey. Next slide. Okay.
Right. So in terms of our Ofsted framework overview, just a quick slide to explain the 4 areas that they look at with close scrutiny when they come to visit us. The first area being children in need of help and protection. They will want to see very good evidence of early intervention, the right help at the right time for our children, that we're making good decisions for our children, that in terms of all our work with children and families, there is good management oversight, there is supervision of that work. There is good evidence of engagement and direct work with our children and families and evidence of that on our files. And looking at outcomes and impact in terms of all the work we're doing, what does that mean in the long term for our children and families? And it's also about identifying and responding to all types of different abuse that our children can experience within their lives. It's also looking at children in care. They will want to see how we are as parents. Are we good corporate parents for our children and families? How seriously do we take that responsibility? How well do we work as a partnership? So it's not just about local authority, it's also about health, policing, community. How well do we understand across our council, but also wider partnership, that corporate parenting responsibility? How well do we capture the permanence for our children? So when they come into care, how quickly do we make sure that they are in permanent loving homes? Again, in terms of outcomes for our children, the stability for our children who we are parents for. In terms of our care leavers, they will want to see that after our children who we care for turn 18, that once they become adults, we don't forget about them. It's about how do we support them through that adulthood, that transition into adulthood, but also once they are adults. And particularly when they live outside of Luton, how well do we work with local services to make sure that all their needs are met, that they are on track to achieving independence in a healthy way? So their health needs, their educational, job, all that stuff in terms of housing, all those areas they will look at. And it's not just about us as a local authority, but it's also about the wider partnership. And that is when they see those 3 areas in motion, and how we're achieving under each of those will determine how they judge us as a leadership as well. How well do we work collaboratively as a partnership to get it right for our children and families, but also how well do we have good scaffolding systems and processes in place so that our frontline practitioners have the best conditions to deliver excellent practice for our children and families. And the 4 gradings that they go with are either outstanding, good, requires improvement, or inadequate. And it's very hard because just as a case in point, we had Bedford as a neighbouring authority who have been graded good for a number of years, who after their most recent judgment received requires improvement. And it is about the the Ofsted regime is very hard. Care leavers is a new area and criteria, and it is a limiting judgment. So Harrow, for example, did really well in all the other criterias, but with care leavers, because of a couple of things, they lost that, and they got inadequate because of that care leavers judgment. So it isn't an easy framework. It is a high level of scrutiny, and authorities, a lot of councils are struggling in terms of that to maintain their goods and outstanding. So it isn't easy, but we are ambitious, as I've said, and we are bold in terms of what we are trying to do and work at pace to evidence that change and transition that we want to evidence. So what happens for us when, as it requires improvement authority, we have 3 weeks of Ofsted engagement. So the first week, they will call us on a Monday. So if we are on standby every Monday morning, they will call us between the hours of 9 and 10, I like to think. We only start breathing after 10 a.m. And then what happens on the day is we get a meeting set up with the Ofsted inspectors. We have what we call an Annex A, which is a list of all the documents that they will require of us as an authority. This is everything from our QA activity, which is all our quality assurance that we have been doing over the last 6 months. So they are interested in the last 6 months. They will look at all the internal audits we've done, all the partnership learning we've done, all our policies, procedures, every bit of paper in terms of how we do stuff they will want to see. They will look at our data with close scrutiny. So Annex A is split into 2 bits. One bit is data, the second bit is all the documents. And it is about looking at the scaffolding. They will want to see that there is good systems and processes in place to allow for good practice to thrive and take place. And the other bit is data. They will scrutinize our data. They will look for anomalies, and Annex A is designed in such a way that it picks out the anomaly. So what we do every week is study our own Annex A. We look through it. We are going through line by line every document, because what they will want to see is congruence between the story we are telling about ourselves, but the story that they will see in practice. There has to be congruence. Otherwise, they might find gaps, and that's what we don't want to evidence. They don't look for perfection, because we are in a system of we are a human system working with humans, and it's not an exact science. But what they will want to see is we've got good grip and we know what we're doing. Of those audits, the 6 months audits, they will pick a dip sample of up to 15, could be even more. And from that, they will go away and have key lines of inquiry from that piece of work. They will pick a range, some that we've graded as outstanding, some we've graded as good, inadequate, requires improvement. They break it down, and they will want to test us in terms of how well do we know ourselves. And also they will want to speak with our practitioners to see how much have they learned from that audit work, and are we a system that learns from stuff like that? Because that's what they will want to see. Do we learn from when things go well, but also do we learn from when things go not so well? And also then we set the timetable for the week. So if we get that first week right, we are in a good stead. And then the 2 weeks following that, they're all over us. There's about a team of, it could be anywhere up to 9. A range of different expertise. They will come to us on a Monday the following week, and from then on the timetable is constructed. They will meet with a range of people. They're not that interested in meeting with the leadership team as such. It will be people on the ground. It will be the partnership that they will spend a lot of time with to understand how are we doing things. They will look at a lot of case files. They will be all over it. So they will be looking at how do we deliver. And again, with all of that, they will also have significant focus on care leavers. As I said, it's a new judgment, of course. And we will get initial feedback as well each day in the Keeping in Touch meetings. Sorry, I can talk for England. Self-evaluation framework. Just very quickly, this is about how You have seen a copy of the CEF in the paper, so I won't go through that in great detail. But what exactly they want to see is how honest are we? How well do we know ourselves? And what is our credible plan for improvement? That's what they want to see. As I said earlier, it's not perfection, but it's about what are we doing about areas that we are identifying as areas of improvement, and what is our plan to keep the good stuff ticking on good. And the next slide is help and protection. So we've broken the next few slides into key areas. So as I said, help and protection is an area that they will look at in terms of that excellent work that they will want to see in terms of outcomes for our children who are on child in need plans, child protection plans. What does that look like? How well are we working with families? Evidence of direct work. They will want to see how well we, particularly in light of Families First and all the reforms, the impact of that. They will want to see what is our headline figures telling us, but also what is the qualitative story behind the headline figures that they will want to understand and see. I will go on to the next one, Councillor Ali. That's for you.
So we're going through the 4 areas, and Teresa's just gone through the help and protection. So the next area is children we care for. So we've got on the left some of the areas that we're doing really well in. So that's we have a good relationship with the judiciary and our good court work, a very strong virtual school with good educational outcomes for our children, a strong youth partnership service that works jointly with children's services, amazing foster carers and shared carers, but we don't have enough. We have an exceptional service at London Road for our children with severe and complex disabilities. We celebrate achievements of our care experienced children and young people. Clear decision making. We have voice of the child and participation in everything that we do with the All in This Together group, and events to promote the voice of the child, and family time. But there's lots more that we need to work on. So we need to recruit more foster carers, and any support we can have with that would be really, really good. This is we put this as a thing to work on, but the Corporate Parenting Board has really had a refresh over the last year, and we have really worked with partners on getting their attendance. And from now on, every Corporate Parenting Board, which I chair, we have children in care and care leavers sitting in the room and asking those questions around to any partners within the room, so housing, mental health, community mental health, police, etc. And they're actually holding people to account rather than us trying to do it as counsellors on their behalf. So I found that that's been really powerful, and we get all the corporate directors there now. So Gerard, Mark, Diraj obviously, and Kate, they will come along so that they can also see what's happening and hear the voice of the child, the voice of the care leaver. So yeah, we have good examples of life story work, but we need to ensure it's consistent. We need to strengthen our management oversight and scrutiny for permanency planning, consistency of pathway plans and care plans, and consistency is something that's going to come up a lot within these sort of areas, because we will have really good examples of really, really good work and some examples of work that might not reflect how all the work that we've done because of many different things. So our parallel plans progress in a timely manner. We have permanence planning as a golden thread in everything that we do. We need to make permanence planning the golden thread in everything that we do. We need to improve our transitions, and there's some work going on with that, and staying put arrangements. And then the next slide. Care leavers. So again, some of this overlaps with some of the work the Corporate Parenting Board is doing, because we're talking about children in care and care leavers. But again, we've got voice of the care leaver and participation happening. So we have something called chill-in sessions where care leavers can come. We launched our Care Leavers Council a couple of months ago. So they work alongside the Youth Council. We have care leavers as a protected characteristic, and we've really been making sure within the past few months that it's not just a protected characteristic, that when we're looking at the integrated impact assessments, where people are actually thinking about what that means. Again, we work with the Youth Partnership very closely. We're strong links with the virtual school, keeping in touch, support for care leavers in custody. So that's something that we've really been improving on since the first visit last year. And then some of the other things which I think has been driven forward by corporate parenting is our local offer and what we have to offer. So a couple of months ago, Corporate Parenting Board, we signed off a a paper around apprenticeships and opportunities for care leavers from within the organisation. So we were doing lots of talking with partners around how we're going to provide opportunities for care leavers, and we have ring-fenced apprenticeships for every single service director for a care leaver. They will have priority, and it's been really well received. Some of the care leavers have started these roles already, and the service directors have been saying that they're doing a brilliant job, and some of them interview better than some of their senior managers. So it's really that, you know, we are the corporate parents for these care leavers, and we're showing that by providing them opportunities from within the council. We're looking at the housing offer. So we moved the banding for care leavers from band 3 to band 2, and we looked at our joint housing protocol, and that's improved access for care leavers. We have a collaborative approach to service improvements. So and I think one big thing that we're really doing now is making sure that the whole council knows that they're responsible for children in care and care leavers. So we have really good uptake from all of the different departments within the council. It's not a children's services responsibility, and people are really seeing that. So what we started to do following Mark Riddell's visit a couple of months ago, the DFE, is I set up a care leavers project board, which is meeting weekly, and it has our partners externally and internally. So we have housing there. We even have the, I don't know what you'd call them, estates team maybe, to talk about our town hall welcome offer. And when care leavers walk into the town hall, how are they approached and achieved? And then we've been talking about the care leavers hub. So we have people from whatever team deal with sorting things out from the care leavers hub there. We have education, employment and training. So we have the DWP and partners talking about improving our NEET and EAT figures. And we have adult and children's mental health there talking about transitions and pathway planning and things like that. So it's a very, I don't know what the word is, but there's lots of different people there, internally and externally, coming together, meeting weekly, holding each other to account in seeing what we can do to really improve what we're offering for care leavers, following our focus visit, following Mark Riddell's visit. So that's all the good things, but there's obviously a lot to work on. So the local offer is the next item on the agenda. So you'll see that we made lots of progress there. Again, it's consistency. So we need to make sure our pathway plans and care plans are consistent. Strengthen our transitions, which is what we're working on. PA capacity. So we have recruited more PAs, a lot more than when Ofsted came for their focus visit. So caseloads aren't as high, but it continues to be a focus. Accommodation, although we've increased the banding, we know what situation the council's in with housing, so it's going to continue to be a difficult thing. And some of this stuff, you know, we're working on incorporating care leavers into the wider workforce. One of the things that came from our care leavers project board is strengthening our reception and security staff with trauma-informed and motivational interview training. I personally think everyone in the council should have trauma-informed training, but really making sure people that are interacting with people day to day at the reception and things like that, not just for our care leavers, but for everyone, is important. And then we obviously want to improve our NEET and EAT figures, which hopefully will come with a bit of time. And then also strengthen pathways to community mental health support, which we are working on. And then finally, we've got leadership. We have more stable, permanent and experienced leaders who are welcome and invite scrutiny and challenge. Continuous improvement is in everything that they do. We're shaping the leaders of tomorrow, trying to make sure that people that are in Luton stay in Luton and continue to progress. We have a strong cultural and diverse leadership team, which I think is really, really impressive when you compare to other children's services. And it's quite reflective of our population, which is good. We are committed corporate parents, less corporate, more parenting. So we like to turn up to things. Like Diraj and I will attend the chill-in sessions with care leavers or children in care, and they see us as humans and they don't see us as people that just sit behind a desk, you know, painting the walls, and they call Diraj Alpha Wolf apparently. So so it's them showing it's that dedication really. We have strong partnership working, but again, we need more consistency and reflective supervision with focus on outcomes for children. So within each layer of the organisation, we need to make sure our supervisions are at a good level. We're working hard on strengthening partnerships, but there's still a lot more to do with some partners. We're really working on that. Recruitment and retention is always going to be something that we need to work on, and induction and the learning and development offer. we've written improving consistency again, because that's a thing. And yes, so we're doing service improvement reviews and practice observations, which are ongoing. And then finally, I have mentioned this, but the voice of children and young people at the heart of everything that we do. The most important thing is that we're not just talking about the improvements, but we're hearing it from lived experiences, from those with lived experience, listening, engaging, collaborating, and this is a continuous process. And I think, I think there might be a little quote that Teresa liked on the final slide.
Those who know me know I like to end on a bit of a quote, and this is something that we have been sharing with all our staff. It now is the time. We have to break this 10-year curse that we've had upon us, which requires improvement. And it is about embracing our strengths. It is about embracing who we are. So ending on a quote that Nelson Mandela quoted of Marianne Williamson: "Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us." Thank you.
Thank you. Before I open up the floor, I just so yeah, and thanks for a detailed report and presentation. Just to maybe summarise this a bit further. So, in terms of the 4 themes that have been identified, how confident are we that any weaknesses that have been identified have been or will be resolved satisfactorily by the time of the inspection, or at least the protocol or plan in place to, remediate the weakness would be seen as acceptable by Ofsted?
I can, yeah. So, Councillor Bridgen, that is a very good question. I think one of the things that we need to evidence is consistency, and we don't know what child's case file they might pick, what piece of practice they might pick in terms of we currently have over 1,000 children open to us. So we never know which child that they will pick. And so you never know what lines of inquiry they might determine from that child's case file. So it is about evidencing if they pick something where there are gaps, it's being able to evidence, okay, you've seen a gap on that child's case file, but here's 5 others where we have worked with a similar issue, but we've not had that gap. So it's about giving a consistent narrative about where we are at. There are areas that we need to get better at. So, for example, they might say something around the timeliness of assessment. For example, I'm not saying that's an issue, but it is about evidencing what are we doing in terms of the timeliness. And actually, sometimes we don't do that assessment in time, in 45 days, as is required, because a family story doesn't operate in 45 days. Sometimes families' lived experience means that the complexity is such it's taking us over 45 days. So it's about being able to evidence why behind some of those data gaps, behind some of those quality that they might come across. So we know where we are, but it is about evidencing when they find areas that actually, is this a consistent gap in our system? And if it is, what are we doing about it? Or is it an anomaly? And if it is an anomaly, giving them the evidence that is to the contrary.
Thank you. And just following on from that, I mean, obviously these Ofsted inspections sound very similar to working in the pharmaceutical industry, similar to GMP inspections and pharmacovigilance inspections. So they ask to look at a file, and then they dig deeper and ask you about your systems and processes and so on. So with the sort of transferring my experience of that to this situation, they tend to identify themes, and those themes may differ from one inspection to the next. And obviously I think Ume, or one of you mentioned about Bedford and how they had been rated high and that had changed. Do you have intelligence from other inspections at other authorities as to what Ofsted are concentrating on?
Yes, absolutely. So we don't just look at our own system to look at where we are at from our previous inspections and what those recommendations have been. We also look at all the inspections that are taking place right now and in the last 6 months, and we are picking up themes from that, and we are shaping our system as well in terms of how we evidencing best practice in each of those key areas that Ofsted are picking up. So absolutely yes, and we do connect with the other I certainly connect with my peers across the country, not just in this region, just to pick their brain on what they found helpful, what are the bits that they the watch for this sort of list, so we are doing a lot of that prep work, and we're meeting weekly as a system to go through that to make sure we have got enough evidence in each of those key areas.
Good to hear. Thank you. Presley? Oh, sorry. Yeah, I've asked you a question. Okay. Councillor Carr.
Thank you, Chair. I think it's great, some of the work that you're involved in and some of the changes you've made, but I wanted to understand whether this is sort of how this is working in practice, and if there's any feedback from the care leavers themselves and the families involved as well, and have the number of care leavers reduced? There's a few questions there in one, but I didn't want to take too much time.
I can answer. So in terms of that's again a very good question, because what's the so what of this journey, isn't it? So some of our headline data is going in the right direction. So for example, we are seeing a reduction in child protection plans from a year ago to where we are now. It's in the region of around 8%. A number of children coming into care has reduced as well. So 2 years ago, we were in the region of about 400. Or just under 400, and now we are at 355. So again, that number has dropped. Our number of care leavers hasn't dropped because of the age of our children that are coming into care. They are slightly older, which means that when they turn 18, we do have to work with them because they are care leavers. So that cohort hasn't decreased right now, and if the current trend of reduced numbers of children coming into care continues, then in 5-10 years, we will see the impact of that, and we will see that reduction in care leavers. But right now, how things are, that cohort is not going down. But in terms of some of the measurements that we're seeing, so our sort of use of family network meetings, where we are bringing extended family and neighbours and friends together to look at how can we support you well and differently early on, is having an impact, because what we're seeing is that reduction in child protection. We're able to work with families differently, and families are being supported differently within their own networks, because ultimately that's what we want, that long after we are gone, a family has space in place that they can go to for their long-term solutions. It shouldn't just be children's services. So we are seeing that change. One of the amazing things that we are seeing as well is in our system, the amount of feedback and compliments we are getting. It is simply stunning. I think every week I get either an email or a text or something, or a picture or a card, bunch of flowers. I mean, that practitioners are getting from families, from grandparents, from a kid, just saying thank you. That was amazing. One of the most recent ones that really moved us all to tears was a mum who finally made the decision that it was right to relinquish her baby because of a lot of issues she's had. And for something like that, you can imagine the pain and the amount of animosity you can have in terms of the social worker. But actually she wrote, "Thank you for helping me see what I need to do. And because I love my child, I think this is right." And I think to be able to work relationally in such a way where you are not othering the parent, but you're working with compassion so that they feel held, that we are not seeing them as less than us, but we're working with you, and we will work with you to the bitter end, whatever that is, or the stunning end, whatever that is, because we've had parents write to us saying this is a different child and I feel a different parent. So that level of compliments we have not seen in a long time. So that's that. So we do get complaints, don't get me wrong, but we also get in equal measure complements, and that sort of feedback is really important for us.
Thank you. That's answered my question quite well. I also wanted to say that actually it's really nice to see the portfolio holder actually present the report alongside the officers, and it's nice to be know that our portfolio demonstrates really good knowledge of the area. So well done.
Councillor Beacom.
Thank you. First of all, I'm so pleased to hear you saying that it's about working together collaboratively with the family, and it's not about making them feel like they're the outsider or othering in that sense. So, because there is a lot of data to say that a lot of social workers make parents feel, or service users feel, that they are on the outside rather than on the inside, in terms of looking at where they're going and working together with the social worker to get to that end goal in a congruent manner. So I'm really pleased to hear that you're using terminology like that, which is really great. My question is more around where you've got on page, it says 99 of 120 on your slide for care leavers, where you're talking about our things to work on. So you've got on your third to last point where it says further strengthen our reception and security staff with trauma-informed and motivational interviewing training. I mean, this is really positive because it's not very often that we think about those members of staff. We always go directly to social worker, caseworker, all of that sort of thing. So this is really good to see that you've picked this up. But I'm just thinking about in terms of consistency and cost effectiveness and all of those kind of strategic things. When you're talking about security staff, do you have regular security staff that you use all the time, and therefore training them is effective because it's the same sort of people that a care leaver might come into contact with, or a parent might come into contact with, and it's the same with reception staff, because quite often we can see that you've got agency staff who work as your security staff, and if we're going to look at cost effectiveness, that's a lot of staff that you might have to train up possibly. But it is a good thing to see, but I'm interested in that side of things as well. Thank you.
Dheeraj, you wanted to come in? Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Councillor. So I think it's a good question. We are working with our customer services team. So it's not just the security staff. What we wanted to, and this was feedback from our care leavers actually, and in fact, as of this morning, the participation manager has gone and spent some time with the entire customer services team in their team meeting. It's the start of a journey. And actually, it's not individual people, but the whole system that works together, because people might come and go. But if the team remembers the importance of trauma-informed response to how people might present because they're going through a crisis, I think that's what brings change. So it's the start of a journey. Local authorities that have tried to implement this have recognized that actually we need to do it across the board. You can't just keep it to one or two departments or areas. So we've started with the front of house because that's our reception. You know, if this was my child and this was my family business, they should be welcomed like they belong. Absolutely, this is your family home. Welcome. Can I get you a cup of tea? So it's about just starting that dialogue. The feedback we've had from the head of customer service today at the project board that Councillor Ali chairs was we need to make this child friendly. So it's not just about care leavers, but how do we make our environment friendly for all children and families when they visit us. So it's starting to bring a bit of a change in that dialogue, which is really positive, and I'm quite excited about that.
Can I just add, we're at the very start of this now. That's come from the project board that we set up 6 weeks ago. That's where the conversations have happened. So it might take a bit of time, but we've started, so it won't be perfect yet.
Just to finally kind of say that I think this is going to be fantastic, and it will have lasting implications, because front of house, like you say, first impressions count for the majority of everything. If you close the door when a person walks in, then all you're going to get is retaliation. And as we say, when it comes to young people, the first port of call is really important, because if you don't engage somebody positively in the first moment or the first interaction, you've lost them. So it's kind of like you're fighting a losing battle already, sort of thing. So this is really good stuff, and I'm really excited to see where it leads. So thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I mean, it's a great actually hearing all these positive things, and I mean, what also I want to echo what my colleague said about the reception, we did have loads of complaints for last couple of years, and because hopefully maybe because of that project will help for all of us, not only for the care leavers, as anybody who comes into the reception, have that opportunity to express themselves and feel welcome, which is, I'm very pleased to hear that. And there is another question, actually. It's also related with that. When we talk about improvement, your service doing that hard work to improving that children's life, but where we last couple of session, we know that there is a lack of child psychologist. So I'm just coming back to that, because has that not only that with other professionals, have that enough demand has been have you already filled all these professionals which we need? But if we have if we want to have consistency, we have to have all these professionals on board. So that's my question. Thank you.
So I think the first part of it was about educational psychologists, if I'm hearing correctly. So there is an ongoing recruitment challenge across the country for EPs, and that's related to the change in legislation around SEND and the fact that actually independent work has been a pull for educational psychologists. Scrutiny will recall that we presented a paper a few weeks back around changing some of the job description expectations, but also the pay and salary, which was outdated. Once it was approved through the job evaluation panel, we've been out to recruit for additional educational psychologists. That piece of work is still happening. The wider workforce item that you've referred to, Councillor, I think Paul Jogi presented earlier around sort of the improving picture there. So, and as Teresa said, there's been an improving picture since last year. We have set some ambitious targets for ourselves to continue to improve on a permanent basis. What we have seen, however, is actually we've got some really committed long-term agency staff as well. So often historically agency staff have been seen as those staff that come and go in very short succession. But actually we've got a cohort of very committed agency staff, and we're seeing more of them convert to permanent posts because they see the importance of, and they see what actually as a council, Luton can give them as a permanent employee as well. So it's an ongoing piece of work. We've not fixed it. Absolutely, there's still more to do, but it's part of our workforce development strategy.
Thank you. Councillor Fry?
Thank you, Chair. It's lovely to hear your positivity, because that usually says that you've obviously done a lot of work to improve, and hopefully that will bear out in the report when it comes through, with the Ofsted report. I'd like to understand something about the data that you presented to us about the MAGPAN and the Vero reports. Are they new reports? Is this something new, a new initiative?
The MAGPAN report was
for 29. It's children who are involved with crime. So it's the Pan Bedfordshire Partnership about safeguarding.
Yep. So Councillor, they're not new panels. So the multi-agency gangs panel has been in existence for some time. It was off the back of the recognition, actually, that we needed to establish a space that allowed professionals to come together, access each other's information, share information, actually do some mapping piece of work to understand the scale of the issue. It's also a panel that's attended by the partners across. So we've got Youth Partnership Service, Targeted Youth Services, police, and education staff as well. And the aim of these panels, so you said MAGPAN and Vero. Vero's has developed into the VEP very recently. The aim of the organisation, again, is absolutely targeting exploitation, criminal exploitation of young people.
Okay, thank you. Because the reason why I asked was the way the data was presented to us here. because you say that one of the questions that Ofsted would ask would be around partnerships, etc. And I was looking at the data, and it's got some figures there, but there are no dates on it. There's nothing there from previous years to say has it gone down? Have those figures gone down? Have we improved? So if we are making improvements, and I know there's a lot of work going on with some of the other reports that have come into CSRG where we have improved things on that. I'm just wondering, are we going to shout that we're making that success with our data that we've got, and can we make sure that they are hearing that story?
Yeah, that's helpful feedback. So we'll take that back and give it some consideration. One of the things, we have to carefully consider what a success factor for something like this looks like, because actually increasing numbers into a panel might seem concerning, but actually it might also demonstrate that we are becoming better at identifying risks. And as a result, we're getting information being shared into panels, which is absolutely the thing we need to do to prevent escalation. And early intervention, as we know, is the right thing. So I think you've raised a good question about, how do we demonstrate movement across the years? But then what do we mean by that, and what it means as in, so what, as it were?
Yeah, precisely, because when you've got data that says you've got 113 children on the MAGPAN at multi-agency gang panel, it's meaningless at the moment because there's no dates on there. There's nothing to say what area this does, and have we identified more? It's just we need to say what we're doing, because I know we're doing huge amounts in Luton to work on gangs and things.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? No. Thank you. And again, I think the recommendation was just to obviously review and comment. So again, thank you for that. We move on to the next item on the agenda, which is item 10. That wasn't included in the original document pack. That was sent as a to follow report. So hopefully you will have that. And that is with Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I saw.
Thank you. So I'll summarise. I'll be as so our local offer. It is a statutory offer, and we need to publicise it as well. So we need to make sure that all of our care leavers know about the offer and understand the offer. It has been very much a labour of love, and we have included our care experienced young people at every stage of the process, both reviewing our previous offer, but also really looking at the way the offer is currently on the website, getting their help with changing it, making it more young people focused, and also with the PDF that came out to you in terms of how it explains to our young people what the offer is. So there are 9 key areas in the offer. It goes through the legal aspect in terms of what type of care leaver am I, because that has an impact in terms of what the offer is you will receive. It talks about pathway planning and explains the whole process about that. Accommodation, and also identifies some of what you've heard tonight in terms of those improvements with our housing colleagues. We're also piloting a rent guarantee scheme for our care leavers. And we've also been doing some work with our repairers. So our care experienced young people have been meeting with our colleagues in the repairers department to make sure we can develop protocols in relation to that. In terms of education, training and employment, you've heard tonight from Councillor Ali and Teresa Hills about our ambition for that and the work that's happening right across Council as the family business, and how we are increasing our apprenticeships for our care experienced young people. We're doing a lot of work around health and well-being, and particularly with our partners, particularly with CAMHS and our mental health colleagues. Support and relationships is a key area, because we know our care leavers experience loneliness and isolation, and the hub that we are developing is really important in relation to that, because that's an opportunity to come together and meet and greet. Money, of course, is fundamentally important, and not only do we give advice about what the entitlements are, but also some advice about different charities that can be contacted as well. Importantly, we really want to encourage not only participation but co-production in everything that we're doing, and we're really encouraging our young people to become involved with that. And finally, it talks about transition to adulthood and how we support our young people right through from children in care into adulthood, and how we ensure we work with our partners to support that as well.
And I'll just add, so this has been a central part of our weekly meetings and the Care Leavers Project Board, and we've had care leavers involved in every aspect of the way, and we've attached a PDF, which is what you can look at. But if you go on the council website, I don't know if it's official yet.
Be after this.
Okay, fine.
Not the PDF, but
the actual version where you navigated through the website, again, that was developed with care leavers. It's been a long process. We have to work with partners, mental health, all of our partners to get that on there, and it looks really good. There's different tiles, apparently that's what they call it. So if you ever have a chance, have a look at it. And then our next step is to look at how we can condense it and make it into like a 2-page document that's a bit more accessible, because the document's really long, so our care leavers can look at it. I mean, the PAs as well. And that's the project we'll work on a little later on. But it's taken a while the team have worked really hard to get here, and I think it looks pretty good.
Thank you. Any questions? Yeah, Councillor Beacom.
One particular point. So on page 15, where you talk about, it's your 4th paragraph down. So where it says from August 2018, care leavers will be boosted by a £1,000 bursary payment if they choose to do an apprenticeship. Is that just a one-off payment, or can they access it? Say, for example, if it's a 2-year apprenticeship, do they get it twice, or just wanted a bit of clarification?
Yeah, so from my understanding, it is, so they get it when they come on to the apprenticeship. Yeah. We are looking at different types of apprenticeships as well, and one of the things we really want to think about and develop is training apprenticeships where we have pathways then into our other jobs.
So for example, like so you're saying that they get this payment when they've finished. Am I clear?
So so my understanding of the payment is that they get it. So once they commence, and yeah, so once they're on the program.
No, that's fine, because obviously when a young person is going into a new setting as such, they've got to dress the part, look the part, which obviously incurs a bit of cost. So I was wondering, when does this payment come in? Because if it's before they start or embark on that journey, it's obviously a lot more helpful than afterwards. So that's what I was thinking. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? No? Excellent. So thanks for the update. Very useful. Thank you. Right. Sorry. Navigate back to the main document. Where are we? Okay, so the next item, obviously the draft work plan. So that's on page 107 to 120 of your agenda packs. So the The next meeting is on the 23rd of October. Currently, we have 3 items on the agenda: the Adoption Services Annual Report, Fostering Service Annual Report, and Luton Safeguarding Children Partnership Yearly Report for 2024 to 25. If anyone has in the committee has anything that they want to bring forward as well to that meeting, do let me know, and I can raise that with the officers. And then the following meeting is on the 19th of November, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items on that one. But again, anybody has anything they want to bring forward, then do let me know, and I can raise that in the next pre-meeting. Aside from that, I don't see any hands up on that particular item.